Joker vs Giorno, the long-awaited episode that is so late after it was particularly relevant that you can almost smell the hopes and dreams of Yu vs Josuke fans being crushed underfoot. Jury's still out on the Nostalgia Critic vs Light Yagami though. As someone who has played a Mega 10 game and watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but not any entries that actually involved Joker or Giorno, I had pretty minimal interest in this episode going in. I am a big fan of Shin Megami Tensei 3, and while I never got around to playing more than a bit of 5 before the newer, better version got released, I did enjoy what I played of that too. I'm also quite a fan of parts 2 and 4 of JoJo's, while finding 3 to have a pretty great final act, but overall being a bit too padded for me, and part 1 being kinda weird with the pacing, in the anime adaptation at least. But I just never really cared about Persona, and I'd probably play 3 or 4 before 5, and I don't really have any interest in watching the next 2 parts of JoJo's, they just didn't appeal to me. So I am going into this with minimal perspective on either character. Arguably, this episode will be where I get most of my information from. So this is one of those reviews where I'm talking without any sort of reverence or attachment to the characters involved. But first, let me tell you about how Death Battle still refused to hire me as a voice actor. So here is my advertisement to someone else entirely about something unconnected to the start of this sentence. I will return you to zero. Requiem! You got it, boss. Oh no, that won't work. What? I'm already at zero. What do you mean by that? Thanks to G Fuel, the sponsor of this metaverse trip, I am full of energy and antioxidants while also containing zero sugar, calories, or carbohydrates. What? That's right, Giorno. This plant-based energy formula is like a cheat code in a can. And if Nemesis had ever actually played Persona 5, he could lightly include a funny little bit about how it helped him beat some kind of difficult boss. I failed to see how that G Fuel is available in tub or can form, and in over 50 flavors. Hold on a moment. I must say though, perhaps I shouldn't be drinking it. After all, it is full of caffeine, and that is not fit for people under the age of 18 like myself. Nor should I be drinking it as excessively as I am, because that's also not good. Oh, do you want some too? Well, if you head to the link in the description and use code BLOODREICH, you can get 20% off your order of G Fuel. Hold on a bloody moment! What I want to know is how that counters Golden Experience Requiem! Oh, it doesn't. What? Now I've got the Omnipotent Orb. The bloody what? Spirit Gun! You got this? Nope. So first I'm going to just linger on this frame for a bit because holy fuck, is the new pacing of these intros completely antithetical to the insanely good looking title cards the characters have now. These look great, and it's such a shame though they're barely even visible for more than an inch. I understand that Death Battle has to worry about the average attention span of YouTube viewers having degraded by 3200% in the last 5 minutes, so it's not necessarily a complaint, but it is a bit of a shame. Joker's analysis is honestly not great. I hate to say that because I want to be more positive during this time, but Joker's analysis was pretty much just versus stuff. It's all versus stuff, and I get that this is a versus show, but I've said before that I personally like analyses that balance and flow between the versus stuff and actually talking about the characters, you know, their story, who they are. But all I got from this was the start of Joker's story, the end of Joker's story, and that he has friends. And the friends are more a versus thing than a story thing, apparently. To be fair, I did say I'd not played Persona 5, so maybe it just does have a very bare-bones story that's not worth spending time on. And maybe Joker just is one of those personality-lacking protagonists that exists for you to project yourself onto. It is a JRPG. I don't know. But I'm just not a fan of analyses that feel like they're just rattling off the feet's arsenal and abilities like this. It just doesn't engage me or interest me in the series if I've not seen it. Maybe people who played the games will get more out of it, and more power to them if you do. Why'd I word it like that? But to me, this was just kind of boring. The editing has a few standout moments, and I like the cutaway well enough, especially because it feels like a way to save on the budget of having to animate them fully, without feeling like it compromises the cutaway itself. The Jesus joke was also pretty funny, I'll give him that, I like that one. Giorno's analysis I think is better because it has That's Right Boomstick in it. No, but generally I think it is a little more interesting. It actually mentions a few more story beats, though I can't be the only one who thinks that while Joker got all the versus stuff, Giorno's stat stuff specifically felt a bit undercooked. I know people don't like the thousands of times the speed of light calc given in Dio's episode, but Giorno really needed it. Meanwhile, for strength, all he gets is breaking a car, which makes this, by Death Battle's own logic, one of the most one-sided fights they've ever done. Sure, some would say it is, and I won't argue with that, but they definitely could have tried to make it look slightly more even. Well, okay, even giving him the Megaton level handshake from the Lost film would not make this even at all, but you know what I mean. And I find it weird that they say, especially if it hits as hard as Golden Experience, and then immediately transition to his speed? Nah, it was a little bit wonky. Yes, I know that speed is directly tangential to physical power in like the real world, you know, the faster you hit, the harder the hit's gonna be and all that, but that doesn't mean it's not a weird transition. I will also say that I heard that a big deal with Giorno is his friends and his relationship with them, which surprised me a lot because the analysis gave me a lone wolf character vibe, so take that as you will. I don't know, Giorno's was a bit more interesting, but I can't say it was particularly thrilling. I shouldn't be too surprised that I didn't get much from the analyses, given that I just didn't really know anything going in. Maybe they mentioned more than I realized, just in ways that would only really be picked on by people familiar with them. I just know that as someone who isn't, I really didn't find them interesting that much, and I don't really think I came out caring about or knowing much more about the characters. These analyses just felt closer to what stupid people think the average death battle analysis is, just versus stuff and reducing the characters to their stat lines and power sets. Comparative to Omni-Man vs Bardock, which I think tackled their characters, arcs, and stories much better, while in Bardock's case doing a great job of actually going over his tenuous relationship with canonicity, I don't know. And to anybody saying, obviously they couldn't talk about Joker's story, he has so many powers to cover, Joker's analysis, which has an entire cutaway gag, is 4 minutes and 50 seconds. Giorno's is 5 minutes and 54 seconds. I think it could have been done. Maybe this one is a result of budget cuts somehow. I know that this was the intended premiere of Season 11, so this was just in the middle of production when Rooster Teeth took the L, so it's not impossible that the script wasn't fully completed, and that led to an awkward situation when they got back to it and just couldn't fully iron it out. Or it's the other thing, where they're better for people more familiar with the characters. Or maybe they're just written in a way that I'm not a fan of. There is one thing that is not mentioned that does bother me, but we'll get to that when we talk about the fight. The fight! Oh, right. People should be used to me saying I'm not huge on in-media res openings for death battles because I like knowing when it starts so I have an idea of what has been used and what hasn't, and the state both characters are in at the beginning, as well as personally just being interested in seeing how death battle decides to begin the fights and instigate the conflict. But this is one of the in-media res openings I don't mind. It's effective, it's concise, and there's enough to give you the general idea that Giorno is someone Joker considers a villain, and that he plans to make him good by killing him to death. Let's start visually. Visually, this fight is glorious look. Joker and Giorno's sprites look pretty damn good, but the way that Golden Experience and especially Arsene look steal the show for me. If anything was going to get me to play Persona 5, it's Arsene's sick-ass design. I also think Giorno not flinching as is thrown, and I assume Joker's calling card gets sliced up right there, is pretty hard. I really like the onomatopoeia present throughout the fight, the backdrop looks really nice and shiny, and the Persona 5 graphics that come up are phenomenal, genuinely looking like they just ripped from the game, despite them being made by Death Battle, by DJ I think. I think the fight start is pretty neat, with Giorno turning Joker's bullets into bees, and then I presume using the bee that goes back to his gun to transfer life energy into Joker, so that he leaves himself open without realizing it. Then using that opening to have Golden Experience wail on him, and the failure of that plan to even remotely bother Joker is probably something that would concern Giorno. I also assume that somehow Golden Experience, killed Arsene here, because Arsene kind of just vanishes after being punched off screen. I have to assume that it's dead. Also, the imagery of Giorno putting someone into a full Nelson so his stand can wail on them is great. Please tell me this is something from part 5. Joker summons Alice, and we get this pretty stupid ass run from Giorno, which looks really funny, so I don't actually mind. And some really out of place looking whatchamacallits attacking Giorno, which definitely do look weird and out of place. But I don't mind, as this is a pretty cool throwback to Dio and the world fighting zombos in Giorno's dad's episode. Just with the fun difference that, Giorno's not him and can't 1v1 these things without Golden Experience, so he's very quickly put on the defensive and converts the ground into piss particles. The only genuinely janky bit I don't like is the look of Joker's swing here. Something about his stiff arm and awkward motion makes him look like a marionette. Given Death Battle's budgetary situation, the fact that there's only maybe 1 or 2 moments where the rigging looks janky should be praised. They really did all they could to make this as cool as it could be despite their situation. Still, this looks dumb. And turning the rope into a snake is pretty cool, as well as having Joker shoot himself. The color changing is cool, bringing back the bees, the bees are really easy to forget early on. You either forgot entirely, or assumed that they put the life force into Joker from afar, because I'm just gonna go with the idea that the bee went back to Joker and put the life force into him for Giorno. And now, what else would? But in the actual most JoJo-coded moment on Death Battle, and I mean actually more than the lung thing in my opinion, the random bees come back right at this moment with them flying into Joker's gun because Joker didn't know that would happen, just to blow up the gun from the inside and destroy his boogie woogie instrument. It is such a needlessly that could have happened at any point in the fight, but Giorno waited for the most show-offy moment to insult and belittle his opponent by making them look as stupid as he could. It's a really cool scene, that I think is one of the most noteworthy moments of strategy in Death Battle. Something that, to be honest, we don't see often in the show. I also just like the look of it. I like Giorno healing from the damage he took a moment ago, and Golden Experience does look a bit janky here, but with our stands generally floating around like this, I'm not that bothered. Then there's this. First things first, Jack Frost cameo, pretty sweet. With that out of the way, I was, for a bit, completely confused as to why this ice attack somehow made Giorno pull out the stand arrow. In fact, I kinda thought he didn't and that Requiem activated automatically when he was frozen solid, but noticing him stabbing himself, I wondered why this would possibly make him want to do this. Could he not turn the ice into animals or plants, or just punch it? Why does he immediately use this? Well, you see, it's because apparently this whole time, ice was a weakness of Giorno's, something that goes entirely unmentioned in Giorno's analysis. In fact, Giorno's analysis does not mention verbally in any of the 2 corner boxes, or in the sidebar, anything about Giorno having any weaknesses whatsoever. So color me surprised to learn that actually he cannot make life from sub-zero temperature objects, and that's why he used the arrow. Okay, good thing I didn't know that. Also, how did Joker know that? They did recreate this though, which looks great if you ignore that Golden Experience Requiem is just kind of by design ugly. The next sequence is my favorite part of the fight. Well, not the immediate next sequence, because I think the long stand rush is kind of weird. Being as it is the same shot shown twice but one is mirrored, then this shot, and there's these weird pauses at times for some reason. Though Giorno calling Joker essentially a dumbass phantom in Italian twice, I believe, in this fight was quite nice. I am not a fan of how Golden Experience Requiem delivers the Muda Muda cry. It doesn't sound like any GER I've heard of, and I actually went and listened to all the ones I could think of beforehand. It sounds oddly high-pitched and kind of weird and impactless to me. Giorno himself was voiced by Kieran Regan, who does a pretty good job sounding like a conniving, sinister, arrogant schmuck, looking down on Joker and spending the whole fight condescending him. His Requiem line is delivered with a good degree of rawness, and I like the performance generally. I believe that this guy is a villain. His counterpart, Kevin Rivera, also sounds pretty cool as Joker, getting across the kind of gung-ho yet somehow also way too relaxed vibe that is hard to explain but works. He never really sounds like he's trying too hard, while still sounding like he has no brains to think with at all, just throwing himself at the problem with brute force. And he does sell getting punched to death well too. But this actually is my favorite part of the fight. Joker getting fucking killed and put into the death loop, taking us to this 3D animated segment that is all sorts of kick-ass. From the voices of Joker's friends cheering him on, to the dynamic lighting and shading that makes it look so dramatic and perfect, to the encroaching colors and menace symbols of Giorno that get blasted away, to just the way he looks up like, fuck yo bitch ass, it's time to lock in. This is spectacular, it looks amazing, ugh! I also really like the idea of Joker dying, getting put into the time loop, and then because it looped back to him being alive, he was able to break free from the time loop and come back from death, essentially exploiting the mechanics of GER for his own benefit as he summons the big monster. It looks awesome by the way, and the cry for him is great. I know you can interpret this in other ways, like maybe Joker didn't actually die, but it's that thing they mentioned where social links help you survive things that would kill you. But I think him just surviving the attack and then just deciding to get a power-up is significantly less cool than him fucking dying and exploiting the loop part of Deathloop to break free from fate itself and take out his opponent. So I choose to interpret it the way I actually like. The shot of Joker pointing his gun is great, and for some reason Satanael pointing his own gun is really satisfying to watch. And not only does it look satisfying, the sound design all fight, it's been pretty whatever, not outstandingly impactful, nor underwhelming and bad, it's just okay. But this moment and the sound of the gun cocking and readying to fire is also very satisfying. The hand-drawn pulling of the trigger and the accompanying shot of the shot shooting the fucking Giga Drill is really goddamn cool. And then Requiem tries punching it and blows its own arm off and dies a bum fight along with Giorno in a strangely bloody kill that has him also vaporized. Joker gets the stand arrow, well I guess the head of it. And I guess Giorno was so underwhelming an opponent that Joker gained literally 0 XP from the fight. Maybe that's just what happens in Persona 5 when you're at max level, I don't know. He did get a good chunk of change though, and this overall UI looks phenomenal. That ending, man, that ending is sick as fuck! I think the overall fight is fine, with a few standout moments and cool bits of strategy, but generally feeling a bit quickly paced and a bit whatever at times. And just, I don't know, the characters don't interest me, especially with how little they actually interact as characters, but the ending saves it because that whole sequence is cool as shit. I talked about it enough, you know what I like, but man, it's so goddamn cool, seriously. I guess it goes to show the difference between them. Giorno is like a villain character who is a loner who does, oh god. So I wrote this using only Death Bell as a reference, assuming that Giorno was like a sort of villainous anti-hero loner character, based on his portrayal in the fight and like how they describe him wanting to be part of the mafia. I did not know that he was just straight up good guy, hero guy. There's no like villainous hero who learns to be a good guy at the end the way I like interpreted. And he's not a lone wolf at all. So what I wrote here about, you know, Giorno is like an antagonistic loner and Joker is a protagonistic guy with a ton of friends, that doesn't age well now that I actually know something about the characters. The fight has its problems otherwise. Things I assume were budgetary, like Arsene just kind of disappearing off screen, few bits of jank, the odd looking teddies, the fact that Giorno's, I don't know, something about the huge tree thing he does looks off to me. Looking again at the storyboard, looking at the description, yeah, Arsene exploding is a bit more evident, and apparently Giorno and Golden Experience are meant to actually combo Joker, which is objectively better than the full Nelson, but nowhere near as funny, so it's not as cool. The only other thing of note is that the cinematography on the final punch bit was meant to be a lot more dynamic, with us getting a more dynamic zoom out that showed the scale of the bullet better, and a more close-up shot of GER punching at the bullet before it slides into frame and destroys his arm. Instead of him punching at the bullet while it's on screen and not moving, then it just decides to move forward and kill him. Oh well, I don't think there are many changes, and the only one that genuinely I think should have been in the episode is Arsene just kind of like, you know, actually dying and not just getting knocked off screen. Maybe it was a communication thing where different animators did these back-to-back scenes, I don't know. Cool fight though. I wasn't crazy about it, but there were plenty of cool moments, and I think it's great that Death Battle is continuing at this quality for its episodes despite the budgetary issues. Track is cool too. Saoirse getting to actually be in an actual Death Battle track is awesome. I think her performance in Tempest Blitz is one of my favorites in any Brandon commission track with lyrics, and this song is pretty good, and she's great in it too. Then there's the conclusion, which is so hilarious in just how one-sided it is, while still having Benjamin go, nah, this was a pretty tough one to call. I fucking love that the category bit shows up for a nanosecond and immediately goes red for Joker. Then they go, but here's why Requiem is tricky, and also why Joker completely blows through it with literally no trouble. This is one of the most one-sided episodes ever based on their conclusion. Giorno has less advantages than fucking Homelander did against Omni-Man, and honestly with how they go deep into how Joker completely nullifies GER, this has about as much weight as Super Friends Aquaman's own single advantage. I know what they mean by saying it wasn't an easy call because a lot of it comes down to interpretation, but I only know that because I'm in the Versus scene, and I know it's all based on interpretation. That is not at all how they present it in the episode. They present it as a pretty open and shut case of Giorno is immune to Joker's baby weapons, but any of Joker's important shit just kind of blows through it anyway, and Requiem can't even kill Joker. I do think they should have been a bit more careful with the Eyes of Heaven bit. Having them follow on mentioning it with two lines that imply it was the deciding factor on Satanel going through Requiem. I understand they're just cracking some funny jokes about, you know, Dio being a prick. That fucking car's back. But I also understand that people who don't know better are likely to take it as them saying, because of Eyes of Heaven, we know that Joker can get through Requiem. Instead of actually what they're saying, which is, Joker can get through Requiem because of the traits of Almighty attacks, and Eyes of Heaven supports this. Maybe again, this corner box could have been said out loud, where they explained that it's relevant because what's-his-name, I forgot, wrote it, and then also included a bit explicitly mentioning, that fucking car, I'm gonna fucking return it to zero. And then also include a bit explicitly mentioning that it is just auxiliary media that supports the pre-existing claim. Otherwise, it's fine. The conclusion is fine. I think it's more amusing than anything because of how it's another, this is actually a tough call. Here's why Giorno had no way to win and his only advantage literally didn't matter sort of conclusion. Joker vs. Giorno was pretty cool, but I think mostly just pretty cool. The fight has one of the coolest endings ever and some really nice shots, some great artwork and sprite work and modeling, and the editing and the analysis is very nice as usual. It is admittedly kind of superseded and overshadowed by the existence of the next time. Y'all should know I am very hyped for Bowser vs. Eggman. I already love it just from the development footage we've seen. I am ready, I am hyped, feed it to me. Actually, I'm working on the episode people voted for me to do on my own Versus series right now, so I gotta get back to that. It'll be done this year, I promise. I give Joker vs. Giorno a 0 out of 10. Wait, what? Requiem?! Whoops! Fucking prick.
Jack Frost! Icy!
This Choco Phantasma is justice. This is Requiem.
Oh.
There we go, that's the review. That's Joker vs. Giorno. I guess I wasn't very, clear on, my overall thoughts. I do like the episode. That's it. Yeah. I guess I was clear, actually. I was starting to think that maybe I got off, mixed messages, but, Now I think about it, no, I mean, I like it. I'm not crazy about it, but I like it. I don't know what else to say. If you enjoyed it, tell me what you thought below. Tell me what you think of the episode. Did you like it? Did you agree with it? Can you be civil about it? Most people have been. It's been very nice and civil in terms of response, which I'm not actually that surprised about, because this is like long after the time where anyone gave a shit about the outcome. So, you know, this sort of response is what Bardock Omni-Man would have had if we waited like another 3 years before actually doing it. I say we as if I'm part of the crew. You know, it's like one of those things, like I guess with Madara vs. Aizen, where, you know, the response was a lot less controversial. The result was a lot less controversial than it could have been, because I think people had stopped really discussing the matchup to the same extent. There was a bit more than with Giorno, but, you know, it's just one of those things, right, where you wait long enough, and people will stop caring about the matchup, which does mean it'll probably not make as many views, but it also means, you know, it'll make less controversy. Not that anyone really cares about controversy at this point with versus results. Yeah. So good job everyone on being civil about the outcome, including the people who did disagree on it. I've just posted like memes about it, and like my Twitter has been blowing up, and it had to be now, right as everyone was migrating away from Twitter. Yeah, I have a Blue Sky. I don't post anything there, but you know, I have one. I'll link it in the description. Along with my Patreon, where all these lovely people, thank you for supporting, support me on Patreon, and I do things that you can watch on Patreon before they come out on YouTube. And you can also make me say stupid stuff, so let's say some stupid stuff. Let's just see what they've got for me. Step to it! That's like an in-joke you wouldn't get. I'm really tempted to do this in like a G1 Megatron style voice instead of the like Transformers 1 style, like, the age of hungry is over! No more empty stomachs! Follow me and you shall never miss lunch again! Fries up! You may have mastered stealing hearts, but I've mastered fate as well. And I wish you gone forever! Where am I? Oh my gosh, it's Deadpool with a gun! Behold an endless death. I don't want to do that last bit. You'll never see it coming. Persona! I don't know how King Crimson works. I don't know what this says. Something about the devil, and it ends with what? Something about homes. And I know that Kitty is going to smack me over the head for how I pronounce this, but El diablo no quiere usar pantalones en mi casa y no sé por qué. Sure. Hey, so I heard we both like to kill clowns? Who the genuine fuck are you?
Hey, Autobots, I got something for you. Transform and hee-ho!
You thought the Joker was the one who set you up, but it was I, your father, Dio! Go fuck yourself, Dad. Don't mind if I do! Checkmate. See, the phrase teacher fucker here implies that when a teacher takes advantage of a student sexually, that somehow the student's at fault. Shut the fuck up! Who and? Thon. I'm not the imposter. On my honor as a bean, I will expose the sus with my knife! Red sus. Hundred of the Beavers is a cinematic masterpiece free to watch right now on Tubi while still supporting the filmmakers. Go and watch it immediately. Yeah, you know, I don't say all the things that come up because some of them I just don't want to say. One of them wants a Naruto impression. I don't know what Naruto sounds like. Yeah, you know. I'm not reading the Mahito one because, like, save that for when Mahito's episode comes around. Yeah, okay. That's all for today. I hope you have a good one. I hope you enjoy the video. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.